Alright, legends, welcome back to Here's Rodder's Reviews. We're getting into classic X-Men here. Season 1, Episode 5. This is entitled Captive Hearts. Tasty episode with just a simple storyline. And this one, it's kind of, the X-Men shows were one of the first shows to have a storyline running throughout the entire season. But every once in a while, an episode will break off, tell like a little standalone story, and this is probably the first one. No Magneto in this one. It's more or less the story of leadership and the weight of leadership. You see this in Cyclops. He's out on a date with Jean Grey, and he can't really concentrate on the date because he's so intently focused on his need to carry out what Professor X wants the X-Men to do and be. So yes, he's having that kind of little issue there, but we're seeing it more from Storm's perspective in this episode. At the beginning of the episode, the X-Men, other than Cyclops and Jean Grey, they're in the danger room training, and Professor X is in the control room, and he's running them through the sequence of attacks that potentially would be attacks coming from mutants that they may come across in their adventure. So they're eventually getting on top of things. Storm's in the leadership role in the simulation, but then the last test that they're put through is the walls start closing in on them and the roof starts to come down to crush them, and Storm goes up to the roof and she's trying to push it back, and of course the rest of the X-Men are down below, Rogue and everybody doing their thing. But Storm starts to freak out, and this is her. She has got a fear of confined spaces. She's claustrophobic. So we've seen this in prior episodes, but it didn't give you any explanation until now of what it exactly was. So she's claustrophobic. This throws her off. She's not focused. She's screaming, and her powers are actually turning against the rest of the X-Men, and everybody's basically doomed at this point. So Professor X ends the simulation, and he's talking to Storm, and she's like, I don't want the role of leadership. Everybody almost got killed, more or less, and he's, well, like, you're not going to have that option in the field, so at the end of the day, he's a leader, he's going to keep them on track, and he's like, this is what it is, you have to get through us at some point. So we cut over to Storm, Jean Grey and Cyclops. They're on their date. This little mutant called Leech runs across the street and he steals some fruit off a vendor, and the public turn on him and start to hunt him down. So of course, date's over. Cyclops and Jean have to go after them to try and protect this mutant, but whenever they get to the subway below the street, they realise that there's a whole gang of mutants down there called the Morlocks, who have been pretty much started this confrontation between themselves and the humans. Cyclops and Jean have to save the humans from the Morlocks at this point. But then this old lady comes out, and what is her name? I'm just looking through the list of names here. Anna Lee, I think her name is. She has this ability to get into people's minds and put suggestions in there, and she puts everybody to sleep, essentially. The Morlocks take Jean Grey and Cyclops to their leader, who is Callisto. Her thing in this episode is she wants to have a partner in leadership, and someone that she can have an heir to inherit the Morlocks from her. So she wants Cyclops at this point. So they're taken prisoner, held for, I wouldn't even say held for ransom. It's more or less, alright, Cyclops, they're going to stay here, be my guy, give me a child, run the Morlocks off me, or I'm going to kill a Jean Grey. So there's a romantic triangle to this episode as well. You've got Wolverine in there. We all know the score if you've seen any of the movies. Wolverine's on the Jean Grey in a big way, and it's exactly the same in the animated series here. So there's different parts of the episode where he is letting his feelings out towards Jean Grey more and more. He's training at one point in the episode where he should be recovering after being slashed in the side by Sabretooth in the prior episode, and he's training, falls over, she grabs him, and they have a little second there where she, of course, she can read his mind, she knows what's happening, and she tries to excuse herself. She says, Cyclops is waiting for me, and Wolverine's like, I'm waiting for you too. But coming up towards the end of the episode, of course, the rest of the X-Men figure out where they're at, where they've been held. They come in to fight the Morlocks to save Cyclops and Jean Grey. And this Anna Lee character messes with Wolverine's head at one point and tries to get him to actually kill Cyclops out of jealousy. But he manages to fight that off. There's a lot of stuff happening in here as far as mutants and their abilities go. You've got a lot of characters introduced in this episode as far as the Morlocks goes. There's Leech, the little guy. Sunder, this big brute of a guy. There's Erg, Plague, sorry, I think that was the thing about the X-Men and the characters within it. You've got the like a Morph in there, and you've got this Anna Lee character that, you can mix up characters every once in a while in a fight sequence and what's going on. But Gambit is taken out at one point. He's this character Plague touches him and he gets sick, so Rogue has to take him back to the mansion. Everything else that's going on in here, they try to trick the X-Men at one point to think that Cyclops is actually dead, but Wolverine, with a sense of smell, realizes it's one of the Morlocks, using like Morph's abilities to pretend to be somebody else and pretending to be dead. So of course Wolverine, out come the claws. He's like, okay, we'll take him home. Let's take him home in pieces. And like he threatens to cut up the body, and of course the guy freaks out and runs away. At the end of the episode, we get the leadership moment for Storm, and she has to battle not just her insecurities as a leader in this episode, but she has to battle that claustrophobia that she has, because they're down below the ground, they're in a subway station, even below the subway station, so she's closed in, completely insecure in herself and her abilities and her leadership abilities too. So at this moment at the end of the episode, the only option she sees out at this point is the Morlocks have the upper hand on the X-Men and they could take the kill blow, but Storm challenges Callisto, the leader of the Morlocks, to a one-on-one duel for leadership of the Morlocks. And Storm's like, if you lose all respect of the Morlocks, and they go to town fighting, but they're not allowed to use their strengths, their mutant abilities. They come at each other with staffs, like two electrified ends on them, and they're fighting. And it's a very swift, quick little fight. Storm gets the upper hand on her, of course, and then she turns to the Morlocks and says, as their leader, you don't have to hide anymore. The Morlocks are mutants that are mutated to the point where they can't pass as humans on the surface. That's why they're living below in the subways and any little caves they can find. So Storm offers them residence at the school with Professor X and the X-Men. You don't have to hide anymore. Come live with us. But the Morlocks tell her, look, whenever humanity can accept us for who we are, we will return to the surface. And Storm is like, when that time comes, I will come back as your leader, but until then, Callisto will lead in my place. So, tasty little end to the episode. Very, very well told story. This is one of the ones that I kind of remember from back in the day, and it was one of the ones that kind of again broke off from the main storyline of the season. So whenever I went into it this time, I'm 45 now. I haven't watched this episode or this series since it was on TV in the 90s. So it's been a long, long time since I checked out this episode. But going into it, I thought to myself, okay, it's breaking off from the main storyline. Mightn't be that good an episode, but it is. It's fantastic. It's all connected in some way, shape or form. Even though it breaks off from the main storyline, there's something there that's going to tie it to the next episode, and something will come back to this at some point. So of course you've got the romantic triangle between Wolverine, Jean Grey and Cyclops. You've touched on that a few times throughout the episode, and Wolverine is obviously getting his heart broken coming up towards the end of this episode. So back at the mansion at the close of the episode, Jean Grey and Cyclops come to Wolverine's quarters to talk to him. There's no sign of him there, and on the ground you see this photograph of Cyclops and Jean Grey, and it's been ripped in half down the centre. So Wolverine has just disappeared off to get his head clear, but something that Jean Grey realises at the end of the episode is this isn't just one of his normal little storm offs where he'll be back in 5 minutes. He's actually gone this time. Fantastic series. Can't wait to get through the rest of it now. It's been a few weeks since I've uploaded properly, but I did get sidetracked on my vlog channel, so it's gathering up a bit of steam at the moment. That's doing fairly well right now, so I've been concentrating a lot on that there. So I want to get back to this channel and keep at it as much as I can. Right, so if you enjoyed this episode, please hit that like button, get subscribed, do all the good social media stuff, and until the next episode, stay safe, and I will talk to you all then.